So this is actually a special series of Durand On Demand called Amateur versus Professional. Why would I do this series? Well, first of all, because there's a lot of people out there who struggle with what it means to be something, and one of the greatest ways to learn it is to actually understand what it is to not be that, okay? We learn by contrast, so sometimes it's okay, do this, but also avoid that. So I want to talk about those things. The reason that amateur versus professional is kind of a good topic is because it applies to entrepreneurs. There are some entrepreneurs who are truly professional in what they do and some amateurs that drift aside. It works well in sales. It works well in leadership, administration. I mean, you can even pull some of this into ideas and concepts like parenting, clearly teachers. So what are the differences between amateurs and professionals in a universal sense? I'm going to give these to you in quick rapid fire session. They're not always going to be in order of importance or relevance, but this first one is. The greatest difference between an amateur and a professional is that an amateur cannot tell the difference between an excuse and a reason. See, the professional wakes up in the morning and they swallow and they feel a little bit of something in their throat and they say, wash down some water, I'm going to move forward. What the amateur does is they go, oh, I think I had a little something in my throat. I might be able to stay home today. Oh, yep, I'm sick. I'm sick. All right. Good news. I'm sick today. I can't go to work. And they take things and they build them into these excuses because they cannot decipher the difference between an excuse and a reason. And you hear all sorts of preposterous stories. I remember one time I was a sales manager decades ago, and there was a group of salespeople that reported to me, and one of them, it was my own business, I was running a business, one of them calls up and says, you know, I have 4 appointments, and so the following day, he's going to tell me about how his 4 appointments went. I said, how'd your 4 appointments go? And he goes, I didn't do them. And he said it as though I was like, you know, completely ignorant to have asked the question. And I said, you didn't do them? And he goes, no, I didn't do them. I mean, the storm, I mean, this is the summer. There was a thunderstorm that passed through. It lasted an hour or whatever it happened to be. And all of the other salespeople on the team went out and did their appointments. So I said, oh, I'm sorry, was there damage or something in your place? And he goes, no, the electricity. And he said it again as though to emphasize my ignorance. And I said, I'm sorry, did your alarm not go off or something? You slept through things? And he goes, no, my garage door. And I said, well, what do you mean, your garage door? He goes, the electricity went out, so I couldn't leave my house because my car was trapped in my garage door. I said, do you have a wireless phone here? And he said, yeah. I said, could you walk out to your garage? He walked out the garage. I said, do you see that hanging thing with that red little handle on it? Could you pull that down and see what happens? Boom, garage door opens. And, you know, I can tell you this right now. If he had a party to go to or he had to get to the beach or a golf game, he'd have figured out how to get his car out of the garage. But this was such a convenient excuse that he bought into it. And this is the problem. He rehearsed it in his head and it sounded pretty good. It's not until our excuses come outside, okay, are verbalized, that generally start to hear how preposterous they are. So I would try them out on yourself before you say them out loud to others, because you probably eliminate a lot of what those excuses happen to be. That's kind of a cute little story about this. But the bigger excuses that we make, the self-justifications, the rationalizations we make, are all stemmed from our ego. And this is the problem. See, when we have an ego and pride, we build walls. We not only puff ourselves out, but we build walls to protect ourselves from other people tearing down that ego that we have, and we become very territorial about it. So when somebody, you know, is trying to illuminate, even in a kind way, that something might be an excuse, we don't just not accept that, we attack them for it, right? And when we make this attack, we feel more fortified in what we're doing. Excuses are a very, very funny thing. They all have the same sort of element to them. In high school, the high school kid learns innately to say, I didn't get my homework done because my grandma died. Okay, well, the poor kid whose grandma actually had died. But why did he say that? He says that because anybody who would challenge my grandma died is a bad person. What, I don't love my grandma? I'm not supposed to love you don't love my grandma? So nobody challenges these types of things, right? As we get older, we do the same sorts of things. We use excuses that tap into a defensiveness right from the start, where a person says, I won't be the number one salesperson here because, family's too important. Well, what does that have anything to do with it? To the unknowing person, they're like, oh, wow, moral reason, that's good for you. I wouldn't be the number one. Wait, Why does being the number one salesperson have anything to do with your family? Why? You just indicted every number one salesperson. Most of these people use the principles that they use to become number one in sales to also be great in their family. And so we have to not let ourselves talk fancy to ourselves or to others. I mean, the reason that 9 out of 10 people use traffic as an excuse when they arrive late to something is because they have plausible deniability. And of course, traffic isn't your fault. Let's look at these things. What is the difference truly between a reason, a substantial reason, and an excuse? Keep an eye on it. Are you being a professional today, or are you an amateur? Go for it, challenge yourself, have fun.